Okay, now, remember how I was talking about my getting two of these instead of just one? Well, I've put them together. I've even got them magnetized, so I can jump between the harpy or the chrome. At the moment I've only got all my chrome pieces magnetized. And I think it's about time we move on to this guy here. As you can see, he's only basically half complete. So, yes, well, we can all thank that to my lovely pooch. Now, his tail's alright. It's basically the only thing that's survived. Now, with fixing it, I've decided to just keep half of it and the top part. Now the top part's got a bit of damage to it, but I'm pretty sure with a little bit of green stuff I can probably fix that. But this whole side is a-okay, so no need to worry touching that, which leaves us with just this lovely part here. Okay, now here's the mangle part. As you can see, there's this part down here that I was showing you guys before, and that needs to be pulled down. I'm actually going to cut this because it's got a flat little edge there that's supposed to go on the base and align with the other part of the tail over here. So those two flat little edge there is supposed to align, go on the base. There's many ways I could probably do this without actually cutting this part off, but I've decided I'm just going to cut it, make it easier. Probably not, but let's give it a go. The next part is this area here. As you can see, it's poking out a lot. Now, this part here was actually not poking out, it was actually poking into the model, because the tooth had actually come down and split it into the model. So I've just poked it up through the outside of the model. Unfortunately, it's obviously stretched, so it's now poking extremely out instead of being flush again. I think I'm just going to cut that part as well. It's a lot easier to do your flat surfaces with the green stuff. I say that now. It sort of is. Like, yeah, you'll see. It's basically just making panels and then gluing them on or green stuffing them on. Now these two areas I would say are quite easy. And then we move across to this here, this monstrosity. Now, if you can look at this bit here, that's what it's supposed to look like. And you can see how far in that's actually been destroyed. That's the front, and that's the front there. So, yeah, you can probably see how flat and bent that is compared to the original part. It's actually going inside the model pretty damn far. Yeah, it's not nice at all, so just going to cut all that out. It's going to be the biggest part of this model that I'm going to have to do. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. So let's get to it. You guys already know that there's a few items you need for this sort of stuff. You need some scissors and some green stuff. And glue, of course. What we're going to do today, the cutting tool. It has a straight edge on one side and it creates an apex if you use the inner side. Most of the time when you're cutting shit off the sprue, you probably want to use the flat end unless you want to leave a little bit behind to worry about later on. Now, the other thing is that because this cuts it flat, it's not really going to bend or stress the plastic where you're cutting it. Well, this end here is going to bend and stress and stretch and everything, so it's not very nice to use that on the actual model itself. I think I'm actually going to go with this side today. This side here I like to use, especially when I'm needing to drill holes into it, because it gives me a nice flat surface. But today I don't want to drill any holes, I don't want a nice flat surface, I want something that this green stuff can actually stick onto. So hopefully by creating an apex, it makes a nice point for the green stuff to click onto. And the thinness of this plastic, I don't think I'm going to be able to drill into it anyway. Now, let's go with the cutting. Now I've started to cut this, as you can see, making a bit of progress. I also forgot to say that you do need a Stanley knife. Mine's a bit dirty because I've been using it for gluing and green stuffing other models lately. Needs to be a bit cleaned up, but of course you guys would have known that. Now while cutting, you always want to use a reference piece so that you know exactly what you need to cut and what you don't need to cut. As it gets closer, you just want to see if you can align up your pieces to make sure that there's no so that it sticks together properly, and as you can see, it's not sticking together properly at all, so I need to find out where those nasty areas are and try and fix them as well. Now, I already know that there's a bit of plastic down this end here that's poking out and forcing this part away, so I need to fix up that. Another part is in here. I still need to clean up in here because that there is actually stopping a bit of plastic from going in there nice and smooth. So after I've done that, I'll realign them, see if they work out a little bit better, and then we go on to the green stuffing. Now when you get this green stuff, you want to use probably 50-50 depending on like okay, I'll tell you the tips and tricks. Alright, if you ever bought this stuff or looked at it, you probably already know this. Basically the blue stuff makes it dry quicker, the green stuff makes it dry slower. Also I think this might end up with a harder result than the greeny green stuff as well. But so you just want to take a 50-50 mix. Just about a 50-50 mix, like I said. Now you want to try and work out how much you want. It's probably better off taking off more than you need, throwing away the excess. Probably don't use scissors to cut this stuff. As you can see like a nice little V shape there. That's because I have used scissors to cut this. Clippers, that's the word I'm looking for, the cutting tool. Clippers. What you do when you're not using them is you leave it in the freezer. Freezer's the best, it goes all nice and hard. All you need to do is take it out, cut off the part that you want. Because it's not gooey, it won't stick to your scissors, clippers, cutting tools, and all you need to do is just wait for it to warm up a little bit and rub it around. Now I'm going to take a lot of this stuff at the moment because I think I'm going to need a lot of it. So keep it in the freezer, it lasts a hell of a lot longer than outside. Another thing you might notice is that if you leave it out of the freezer, the center part there, usually the chemical reaction starts down the center and it will get hard and you'll end up with these nasty little bits. It only happened once with me, so that's basically using green stuff. So I'm going to use a big nice blob of green stuff about that big. So I'll show you what I've done so far. This area was actually annoying me so much at the back there, not aligning, that I've actually separated the pieces. I've cut the bendy bit away that was bending it. I did find out that it was a bendy bit, so I've just cut it straight. I've cut a nice hunk of it out. It doesn't really matter because I need to reconstruct it that badly anyway. So I've also drilled a pinhole there and a pinhole there. I was really surprised I actually managed to drill a pinhole in there. Basically, to drill a pinhole you just need like a little hand tool like that. Just make sure that the bit that you're using is the same size as the pin that you'll be using. So my pin today will be this. I'll cut it down to size later on. Where did I get this nice little pin from? From a paper clip. That's right. Paper clips are your best friends. Paper clip, glue, green stuff, everything. Okay. So now I'm going to let this green stuff sit here and dry a little bit. I'm going to go do some washing and I'll come back. I went over a few of the tools that you'll need while you're green stuffing. You'll be surprised what other things you should have. I've got like a special little modelling tool here, also from Games Workshop, like the driller piece that I've got. You don't need to go as fancy, but anything that shape really does help out. I've got another thing like this. It's got a changeable head. At the moment I've got the point in it, but I've also got like a little round knobule thing that can go in there too. Couple of files, just because they got different shapes and stuff like that. You probably don't really need this, but just get a whole heap of things, even if it's knives or screwdrivers, just anything that gives you more shapes to play with. Another thing you'll probably want especially when you're using a lot of green stuff, is cling wrap. Basically you create a sheet of green stuff and put it in the freezer, leave it for a while, it'll harden up, and then you'll be able to cut it up into the right shapes that you want. It takes a lot of getting used to. Alright, let's see how we go. Alright, there's my green stuff there. As you can see, I've got a fair amount of it. I shouldn't need too much to fill in that gap there. It's just the top part there that I really need it for. I've got way too much of it. I'm hoping it's always supposed to have heaps. Basically I've got it all nice and flattened out. How I've done this is just having the Glad wrap there on the ground. Find something flat to whack it with. And every now and then just use one of these to knead it out a little bit, flatten it out, and then straighten out your waves with this again. You need a lot of water every time you do it. Put a little bit more water on any of the contact points that you're planning on whacking it. Even the Glad wrap, although the Glad wrap doesn't need as much as anything else. But yeah, just constantly keep all your surfaces wet while you're patting this down. Don't touch it with your fingers because you'll end up with a whole heap of fingerprints. And I've got a few models where, well, the first model I tried the green stuff, I didn't use this technique. I was just whacking it straight onto a paper clip and ended up with fingerprints all the way up and down it. Took me about an hour to get rid of them all. Still trying to fix that model up. Hopefully you'll see it a little bit later. Alright, but anyway, I'm going to whack this into the freezer for a while, wait for it to not dry up but get a bit hard, and then bring it out and start seeing what I can shape it into. Also, while it's hard, it'll be easier to cut, so I'll be able to cut it into actual shapes. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Okay, back again. Let's see how this stuff's going. Now, before I left, I can't remember if I told you or not, but I was going to put another pin in here. So now I've got 2 pins. That's going to help with our putting on just a base. I think today we'll just put a base on and just leave it at that and then glue it all together. Now what I mean by a base is like, well, you can count those pins as a skeleton, and then we just put like a bit of a skin onto that. You know, just a basic, you know, thing. I guess that'll be all finished up. Probably might smooth it out a little bit, but see where all that detail is? I'll leave that for another day. Just can't be bothered anymore. I just want to get it glued together and all fixed up. Alright. Now, I've kept a bit of the little bits that I've cut off, especially this bit here, just in case it's just like a little knob for later on. I might be able to use it or not. Now, if I put this stuff together again, you can see that it's not so much of a problem this time. It's going together fairly well. There is a little bit of a gap in between the 2 pieces of plastic, but that's alright. A little bit of green stuff will fix that, as long as it's not like, you know, sticking up like it was before, because even if you use the green stuff, it'll just end up with a warped shape. So yeah, so let's get to it. The green stuff that we made before, here it is in a little baggie. Well, not baggie, Glad wrap. It's not quite hard anymore. I've actually had it out of the freezer for about 10 minutes now, and it's actually gone quite soft again. So I'm going to have to be very gentle with it. Unfortunately, I thought it was going to be a lot harder than that when it's not. Don't forget your water. Now basically, I've got this flat little bit of plastic. We want to cut shapes into it to match the holes that we want to fill in, and then just basically try and get it onto those holes. We don't want it sticking, we want it sort of sticking underneath the holes, just to fill them in, and that way we can build on top of it. But if we stick it on top and it's got a big bulge coming out of it, it's a bit hard to cover it up. Like, it'll look like, I don't know, this is like a snake sort of thing, so it'll sort of look like he's eating something, and he really needs to like let it out. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'll get this going. I probably won't film this because this is probably going to be a bit embarrassing, and I'll be swearing a lot during the time as well. So, Glad wrap out. Always use Glad wrap or a non-sticky surface. That's the best bet with this green stuff. It will stick to the Glad wrap, so remember to put a little bit of water on top of it. And that's my dog. Just ignore him. And he's already sticking to the table. And I'm already putting finger marks on it. Gonna have to come up with a solution with those fingerprints. Okay, well, I'll show you when I've all done it. Alright, now I mentioned bones before, didn't I? Yeah, well, as you can see, I've got some green stuff happening there and there. Just basic. It's inside the model, so I can build upon it to make the shape I want to. Now about the bones, I can't believe I forgot this, but I got round to doing the front bit, and I was like, oh, hang on a second, that's not going to work. Now, as you can see at the front here, I've added some pins. That's basically what you'd call like bones, just some extra support there. Pretty straight, which is good, so I can put a flat surface onto there, and it should keep the same angle that I've put the flat surface onto. Everything else seems to be going good. You can see I've like made sure that green stuff's plastered in there, and yeah, next thing I'll be showing you is the skin on top, and maybe I'll just glue the model together once I've finished all that, filled in the holes. Yeah, because after that it's just detail work. I noticed at the back here it does look pretty cool. I've actually stuffed up some of the detail in there, but I had it before, so it was almost looking as if like there was a missing back plate there, I guess. I could like maybe put some lines in it for flesh or something like that. I've actually put some extra putty over it for now, but yeah, I'm thinking about doing it maybe for like regen powers or something, or yeah, just some battle damage. I mean, he's not unscathed. It will look like this thing's been through a lot, even after I fix him up. So I mean, I might not bother hiding it. I might actually show it off. I might actually show a bit of him through his armor. Alright, I think I'll call that it. I'm just going to glue it together now and work on it a little bit more as the years go by, and hopefully I'll have it finished in a couple of days, if not weeks or months. I really can't be bothered working on this anymore, and all I need to do is just cover up a few holes from it. It should look alright. Yeah, should look alright. I reckon I can finish off the major detail later on, but yeah, as you can see, I've had to use a few different layers, and you can probably even see a fingerprint or two on that one. That was just like major work there. Alright, so gonna glue it together, let it dry, and work on it later on. Alright, adios, hope you enjoyed this.